Now, Paul Ryan is the Speaker of the House. And look, he's got a pretty tough job. I mean, Speaker Boehner, he left because he's like, I don't want to do this freaking job anymore. Look how much I drink. So now I say that not because I like Paul Ryan or the job he's doing. I think he's doing a terrible job, and I think he's a terrible person. But I do mention this because of the reality he seems to find himself in. He's the Speaker of the House, and he's out there. He's got to defend Trump. He's the one that's got to deal with President Trump, and he's also got to go and rally the House to try and pass their agenda. And so far, he's having a bitch of a time. Now, and it's about to get even more difficult for him. According to Politico, Paul Ryan's allies are starting to pull the chute. Quote, a number of the Speaker's closest comrades in the House have called it quits in recent weeks because they're tired of President Trump's antics, depressed over the GOP's dearth of legislative accomplishments this year, or have what they say are personal reasons. Right. Now, whatever the cause is, they write, the departures are certain to make Paul Ryan's job as House Speaker harder, depriving him of loyal lieutenants in a conference already riven by ideological and stylistic divisions. Now, so they go into one of the people who are leaving. This is Representative Pat Tiberi. Now, he is a loyal ally of Paul Ryan, and he happens to be the latest person that is leaving. The Ohio Republican announced on Thursday that he will resign by the end of January to take a job in the private sector. House GOP leaders had hoped the senior Ways and Means Committee member would lead the powerful tax panel in the coming years. House GOP sources told Politico, but Tiberi, a longtime tax reform proponent, had made other plans just as tax talks are kicking off in earnest. So, look, this guy, it's funny. He's a gigantic tax reform proponent. He's like, yeah, I want to cut taxes for my donors. I can actually help do that being on the Ways and Means Committee. But instead, he's like, no, I can't handle this. I'm out of it. Trump is a pain in the ass. I can't deal with him. I got to go. Very interesting. Now, look, you guys remember the report, right? Where there are Republicans that right now are just waiting for these tax cuts to get done. And the reason that they're waiting is like, okay, we know Donald Trump is a danger to the Republic, but we got to get our tax cuts. I mean, come on. We're not going to pass up this chance for historic tax reform, which it would be historic because we've never seen these levels of tax cuts before, especially for the rich. And it's funny that this guy wants to go before he even gets a chance to do that. But the rest of the Republicans, they're staying, they're waiting. And then whether or not tax reform actually gets done or not, well, that'll, of course, lead to what actions they take afterwards. Now, Tiberi, Politico says, according to multiple House GOP sources, will hardly be the last to leave. Lawmakers have grown increasingly frustrated with Trump's penchant for drama and an inability to focus on a legislative agenda. Numerous House GOP lawmakers and staffers said, while Trump and most Republican voters blame Congress for nothing substantial getting done, GOP lawmakers are privately exasperated that they do not have a coherent leader who can help them deliver on their agenda. That's what drove Republican Dave Trott to announce that he would head back to Michigan once his current term ends. Trott stood up at a late July House Republican conference meeting to complain that the White House was so distracted by the scandal enveloping Anthony Scaramucci at the time that Trump failed to help the Senate pass its Obamacare repeal bill. 6 weeks later, after the health care repeal collapsed in the upper chamber, Trott announced his retirement. So there's a good example of a Republican saying, look, the White House is not showing any sort of leadership. All they're doing is they're fighting scandal after scandal. They're putting out fires, and Trump is just starting new fires. That's what he does. He goes like, okay, well, here's a scandal. I know. Let's give you an even worse scandal. Let me grab the Twitter. Hold my beer. And it's having a huge impact on Republican morale on the Hill. Now, the legislative letdowns, they write, under Trump have weighed heavily on House Republicans, according to Charlie Dent. Now, that's a Republican who recently announced that he will not seek re-election in 2018. He said, quote, "It's very difficult to achieve big ticket items, not to mention just accomplish the basic items of governance, keeping the government open or not defaulting on our obligations. So that's a source of frustration for me." He added, "Congress should take a lot of the blame, yes, but so should the president. The president doesn't lay down his plans, his ideas, his policies, and he sure as hell didn't try to sell it to the American people on health care. And that's a function of leadership. Saying, send me a bill and I'll sign it, that's not leadership." Okay, look, there's a reason that President Trump did not sell or try to sell the health care plan to the American people. It's because it was already super unpopular. You can't really sell America a pile of shit and expect them to buy it. Look, it was at 17% approval. It had nothing in there that the American people actually liked. It had everything in there that they did not like. High risk pools, no guaranteed coverage for pre-existing conditions, and it would actually would have raised premiums for older and sicker people. That's not what people wanted out of healthcare, and that's not what Trump had promised. So, no, it's not the fact that he failed to sell that turd. It's the fact that it was a turd. But anyway, not only that, but look, as far as plans and ideas and policies go, he doesn't have any. He doesn't have any. And look, Donald Trump is a reality show president. He's there for the drama and to personally enrich himself. And he's also there. There's some chance that he thinks he's on The Apprentice still. Oh, what are the ratings? What are the cable news hosts saying about me on? What are they saying to me about or about me on Morning Joe, about on CNN? Or what are they saying on Fox and Friends? Where's my ratings? Where's my ratings? Oh, my ratings are down. I have to come up with another scandal. Here, hold my beer. He has no idea what he's doing. He is not fit to be president. And of course, that whole thing has Republicans actually really upset. One recently departed House staffer had this to say about the challenges of legislating in the era of Trump. Quote, "The job isn't fun anymore. You get beat up in D.C. for everything Trump says or does, only to go home to get beat up for not defending Trump enough by the base. It's brutal." Look, man, I wish I could feel bad for you, but the reality is you created that problem. Your party. The Republican Party has lied to its base for decades. They fear-mongered against Muslims and minorities. They push corporate cronyism. I'm not saying that the Democrats haven't also pushed corporate cronyism, but you get my point. Their policies have helped shrink the middle class while giving enormous gains to the wealthy and powerful. And that's all while ignoring the white supremacy that was brewing in your own party. Are you really surprised that all those factors didn't come back to bite you in the ass? I'm just saying. Now back to the article. The flurry of retirements could create additional headaches for Paul Ryan, who now has to scramble for votes to get must-pass legislation over the finish line as it is. Now that's actually good for progressives in a way, but there are some pieces of legislation that actually do need to get through, like stuff to continue the government, for example. We don't want another government shutdown. Now, conservatives, they write, often balk at bills to fund the government or raise the debt ceiling, forcing the speaker to turn to more moderate or pragmatic members for their support, and those are the people who are leaving. So all we're going to be left with is the Freedom Caucus. You think the Freedom Caucus is going to fund the government? Nope. They say if those lawmakers keep dropping, Paul Ryan might have to twist a few more arms. Now, one senior House Republican speaking on the who requested anonymity, I should say, said it puts pressure on all of us to stick together when our closest allies are running for the exits. And they absolutely are running. And now, some of them won't openly admit that it's about Trump. No, others will be like, no, I want to spend time with family. Talk about Jason Chaffetz, who, recently left Congress as well. He's like, no, I just want to spend more time with my family and everything like that. It doesn't have anything to do about Donald Trump. He was going to be involved in the investigations when it comes to Trump. He didn't want to get involved. He didn't want to defend Trump. He got the hell out of there. He pulled the shoe. The whole spending time with family thing, that's a bullshit excuse. People in power generally don't give up that power without a really good reason. And I think it's the reason is that Trump is going down. And I think there's a lot of people in Congress that are afraid of going down with him. No, I wasn't a friend. I wasn't allied with that guy. I didn't help him out at all. I quit due to my conscience. They'll come out later after Trump goes down and be like, no, I stood against him by leaving. I'm out the door. Now, for Paul Ryan, well, the guy, he's still there, so obviously he's got a job to do, right? The donors, that's who they serve. They must have their return on investment. So what he's doing is that he's doing everything that he can to try and get some of those people to stay so they can pass different pieces of legislation. Ryan has personally sought to halt the exodus. Last week, House Budget Chairwoman Diane Black was considering resigning to run full-time for Tennessee governor. But Ryan implored her to stay a little longer and help him hash out a budget agreement with the Senate, according to multiple people familiar with their conversation. Now, Diane Black, it's funny, I just did a story on her recently. She was one of the ones who wanted hospitals people to deny care to people if they don't have insurance. Like before they went, before Ronald Reagan signed into law a bill that forces hospitals that get federal money through Medicare to serve anyone who comes to their doors. She's like, no, get rid of that. I want hospitals to be able to go back to patient dumping. So that's kind of people that Paul Ryan reaches out to. Look, they say part of the Republican base is deplorable. I'd say there's a lot more than part. But anyway, Paul Ryan, unfortunately for him, has not had the same luck with others. So far, 2 Republicans have announced that they are resigning, and 7 that they have announced that they are retiring. 10 GOP lawmakers have also said that they're leaving House to run for higher office. One senior Republican did argue that the turnover was roughly the same at this point in previous Congresses. However, House GOP sources note that the type of members leaving, i.e. more seasoned lawmakers who roll with the team, as Ryan likes to say, is what makes the departures more notable. So this is your Republican establishment that is going, I can't deal with this, I gotta go. And of course, I think that's got a lot to do with Trump being such a divisive president. Not all of it, but I think he's the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, one GOP staffer who recently departed says House members have grown discouraged because the Senate often fails to take up legislation they send over, but more often, they said, the gripe is over Trump disrupting any legislative momentum with controversial comments that overtake the news. Republicans then have to respond to the president's remarks, and while many of them personally abhor Trump's bombast, they feel they can't criticize him because their constituents still adore the president. You know why? They love Trump because he's just like them. Look, at this point, anybody who still defends Trump agrees with him in his worldview. They think that all the news is fake, or at least any news that criticizes Trump, that women are okay with having their pussies grabbed, and that Trump's doing an amazing job despite no actual legislative achievements under his watch. They think his tweets are awesome, and that white supremacists are very fine people. That's who a lot of Trump's base is, okay? And unfortunately, they're a significant part of the Republican Party. And these Republican congressmen who are now fleeing to the exits helped build that. You built that. Now these same Republicans live in constant fear that Trump will sell them out in a spur-of-the-moment deal with the Democrats, as he did on the debt ceiling last month, or an off-the-cuff comment. Because he's went after, I mean, look at the people he's went after. Jeff Sessions, Rex Tillerson, what was it? There's so many different people that he went after. Again, Bob Corker, who was once considered to be somebody that he wanted to put into his cabinet. Now he's openly feuding with Bob Corker. So it's amazing. He's went after, of course, Paul Ryan, like I said before, Mitch McConnell, getting into feuds with everybody. Okay? So, yeah. He would even undercut his own press secretary. back when Sean Spicer was there. So, look, that's a very significant worry. What if I get undercut by the president? I get made to be look like a fool. I say one thing and Trump tweets 6 hours later, or like at 4 in the morning, something completely the opposite, and now I got to go and fix it. Now, more traditional Republicans also worry that Trump will upend their carefully laid plans. The president keeps insisting, for instance, that he wants a bipartisan tax bill, when GOP leaders have been clearly writing a partisan one. He also ended Obamacare subsidy payments to insurance companies, injecting uncertainty into healthcare markets. And, of course, the effect on the Republicans there is that if the healthcare markets collapse, who are they going to blame? They're going to blame the GOP. That's going to kill their re-election chances. Not only that, but he cut off work permits for undocumented immigrants who came to the U.S. as minors, despite a majority of Americans agreeing that, hey, we should have DACA protections. Now, Republicans also hope that tax reform will succeed and blunt the GOP departures, but if it falls through, though, they'll be ready for more Republicans to follow Tiberi out the door. Now, personally, I think one of two things will happen. Okay, first, tax reform fails. And the Republicans, they pull the shoe. That'll be the last straw. Or, if they do get tax reform, these same Republicans will then turn on Donald Trump and openly ignite war within the GOP in order to get rid of him. Remember, tax reform, these tax cuts for the rich, this is what they're hedging their bets on, right? They don't have a better chance of doing this. This is the best chance that they have. And so they're going to try so very hard to try and get these tax cuts passed. And if they do, again, if we believe Robert Reich's friend, whom he spoke to, who was a former Republican congressman, who said, hey, man, look, all the inside chatter is we think Trump's a danger to the Republic. We've got to get rid of him. But we're not going to get rid of him until we get our tax cuts. If he's to be believed, then that's exactly what they're going to do, because they're never going to get another chance to do these enormous tax cuts for their donors. Hey, everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.